Hey, g'day everybody, Mark here. Look, today I'm going to talk about total body pH and how the reading that I'm going to be talking about today is very, very important when it comes to digestion, especially breaking down the minerals and actually uptaking those minerals into the body. Okay, when we all look at digestion, typically we think about bloated guts, we're passing a lot of gas, we have diarrhea, or we have constipation, but very few of us actually think about the chemistry, the pH balance we have in our digestive tract, which is essential for our body not to just liberate those minerals, but also to be able to uptake those minerals. Okay, any of you worked in agriculture, you would know that with the soil, it's very, very important to get the pH right. Otherwise, your crops aren't going to be able to uptake the minerals, and we're no different. So I'm going to take you through a quick video, and I'm going to explain exactly why this is so and how you can measure total body pH yourself. Look, why do we measure saliva pH and urine pH in the first place? What can they tell us? Well, essentially, saliva pH represents our tissues. It represents what's going on in the body right now. There's a lot of lymph fluid in saliva, which is why when we measure saliva pH, we can get a bit of an indication of what's going on in the tissues, which can be very important, especially when we have acidic tissues, of course. And urine, what's urine? Urine is essentially filtered blood. So it gives us a bit of an idea of what's going on with the bloodstream. Okay, on its own, it's not a complete concrete reading because we need to look at breath rate and whatnot, and I'll talk about that another day. But having that balance and having a really good strong stomach acid and really good strong bile, which is very alkaline, and pancreatic enzymes, is where it's all at when it comes to liberating and taking these minerals. All right, I work with a lot of clients around the world who are having perfect, very, very good diets, plant-based, whole food, vegan, you name it, but they're still struggling because their digestive system is out of whack, their pHs are out of balance, and their body isn't actually getting any of those minerals. Okay, so what are we looking for? Anywhere between about 6.4 and 6.8, anywhere outside of those ranges, from this formula that I'm going to speak about in a minute, we're going to struggle with digestion. And I think this is a massive elephant in the living room. I really do. I see it all the time. When we talk about digestive chemistry, I'm talking about the pHs. What am I talking about? It's all about magnetism. I mean, basically everything going on in the body is about electromagnetism and the forces upon this electromagnetism. All right. Why is magnetism so important? Well, let's have a look at the effects of altered pH. So when pH goes low, okay, we get more acidic. The electrical flow increases, and so does the magnetism. As pH goes high, electrical flow decreases, and so does magnetism. Okay. So what I'm talking about here, too high or too low in your pHs means there's too little there's too much or too little magnetism for the body to be able to pick up and assimilate these minerals. This is why the pHs are so important. Okay. Now, all biological life has the best pH of 6.4. Okay. I mentioned just now about the agriculture and people growing their own veggies and whatnot would have a bit of an idea of the perfect pH. Once you get to 6.4, you now have the ability to be able to actually uptake these minerals. All right, I'm going to show you. Look, I talked a little bit just now about how we all talk about bloating and diarrhea and constipation and whatnot is something that we look at as being digestive issues. But I want to show you a little example. When we look at vinegar, we're replacing hydrochloric acid, our stomach acid, with vinegar, and we look at bicarb, and we're replacing bicarb. We're using bicarb as an experiment here to be able to replace bile, which is very alkaline, and also the pancreatic enzymes. Okay, so it's a clashing. It's a clashing of these two. High acidity, high alkalinity is what really happens, what really starts to help liberate the acidic chyme coming from the stomach and smashing them apart, liberating the minerals, and also providing that pH, which we talked about just now, for the body to be able to actually pick it up. I'll give you an example here. I've got some bicarb here in this cup here, and I have some vinegar here. This is what happens. All right, this is what happens when we have the correct level of stomach acid and the correct level of bile and also pancreatic enzymes when the acidic chyme is released into the small intestines. Okay, so here comes the acid. Here's the bile and pancreatic enzymes. As you'll see, it's a massive fizz. Okay, it completely blows apart the acidic chyme, and this is where the minerals are liberated. And this is where, if this happens, and it happens properly, we actually have the right pHs for those minerals to be actually assimilated into the body. Because if the pH is out, we're not going to have a sizzle, we're going to have a fizzle. And we're not going to get those minerals. And this is what's happening a lot, I can tell you. All right. So what happens when urine and saliva pH is out? This is when we start to not have enough hydrochloric acid, or we don't have enough bile, or our pancreatic enzymes are out. And we start to get these altered pHs. And many of you would have already seen this, this graph before. It just gives you an indication of the minerals that you're going to start missing out on if you're out of these ranges. Now, we must remember that throughout the day, our ranges will probably switch a little bit, and we may move in and out of these ranges. But essentially, this is a really good indication as to, well, if we're out of these ranges and we do the calculation, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, what minerals are we potentially missing out on? And you can see there's a range of scales here. And you look at iodine especially. Iodine 6.3 to 6.6. What this means, if we have a total body pH outside of this range, we're going to struggle to get iodine. Iodine's a very heavy element. It's very difficult to get. And it's going to be one of the first elements to drop out if we have a result that's outside of the 6.3 to 6.6 range. And as we come down, you can see these different elements here, and we come down a little bit further, 6.1 to 7, sorry, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt. These are all minerals that they're easier, they're a little lot lighter, the elements are lighter, but once again, if we're not in this range between 6 and 7, we're going to miss out on these minerals. Okay, and as we come down the scale, we come down the ranges, and we can see from 5.5 to 7.6, and most people are going to have this range regardless. You can see the very light elements that are quite easy to pick up. Okay, so we can start to see the importance of not only just monitoring your pHs and doing the calculation, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and really focusing on, well, am I getting iodine? Am I getting germanium? Am I getting selenium? Am I getting copper? Well, this is going to help you do that. This is going to help you to be able to determine that. Okay. All right. Now, when I'm talking about total body pH, what am I talking about? Okay, it's a measurement. It's a formula. It's not just about saying, well, what's the saliva and what's the urine, and adding them up. We have a formula here, and this comes from Dr. Kerry Reams. So when we measure, when we're looking for total body pH, we're looking at, okay, we measure 2 times saliva. Okay, so let's just say that saliva was 6.5. We'd be doubling that up. So we have 13, as you can see in this calculation here. And we add on to that 1 urine pH. And let's say urine pH is 5.5, as in this example here. And we add both together. We add 5.5, we add to 13, we have 18.5, and then we divide that by 3. And that gives us a total body pH. It gives us a sort of a fairly good concrete idea about where our digestive tract is sitting in regards to these pHs that I'm talking about. All right, but I think one really important aspect of this testing is to make sure, and working out the answer, is saliva pH must be always between 6.5 and 7, and urine pH must be always between 5.5 and 6. This calculation assumes that we are in those ranges. It's not just about having a pH of urine of 6.4 and a saliva, urine and pH at 6.4 and being together. That doesn't work. That's not the issue. That's not what we're talking about. It's about our saliva and our urine being in these ranges and coming up with a reading as close as possible to 6.4. Okay? As we've got here, perfect total body pH is 6.4. Now, if we just go back here and we have a look at this example here, say this was you. And by the way, when you do this testing, make sure you test the urine at least half an hour away from drinking anything, and make sure you measure your saliva at least 2 hours away from eating anything. Ideally, after the first meal of your day, don't make it the first reading, the first thing in the morning. Okay. Now we have a look at this. We've got total body pH at 6.16. Now this was you, and we go and have a look at this graph. We can say, well, what did we have there? We had 6.16. So if we go 6.1 here, we have a look at this range here, we can start to see some of the potential minerals we start to lose. We start to not being able to pick up. Okay, copper and zinc. I mean, how important is copper and zinc? How many people are out of these ranges? I can tell you quite a few. Okay, and when we go right at the top here, you can imagine how many people are lacking in iodine, and yet how many people are looking at this issue? How many people are doing this reading? I would suggest very few, but it's very, very important. Like I said from the very beginning, I think this is the elephant in the living room. I really do. And I highly recommend you start doing some of these tests, and you start looking at this graph, and you start to work out, well, hey, maybe the issue I have is my chemistry is wrong. We've got the wrong pHs, and this is why I'm not uptaking the minerals and the nutrition that we're actually bringing into the body. Okay? So is it any wonder so many people are deficient in iodine? I come across all this time. Remember, we are not what we eat, we're what we assimilate. They're two very, very different things for most people. Okay? All right, that was it. Just a very quick overview of total body pH. Look, go away, do some testing, feedback to me via the group. I'd love to hear how you went. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.